Hey there, this is the Bear King Ghidorah, waking up from my hibernation to make another video related to more monsters. Me and my brothers, Venus and Bum Bum, decided to make another video trifecta. In this case, a monster mash of mashing. So, in this Smash Brothers Ultimate... in this video of brothers ultimately smashing each other, we are going to pit our favorite Godzilla Kaijus against each other in an epic three-way battle royale! And by epic, I mean we'll research more about these three chosen Kaijus and present our reasons as to why ours will end this theoretical yet epic battle in victory!
I had a whole bit recorded for this part, but since I thought that it was cringe, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna show which monster I'm gonna use for this video. Yeah, that one.
That's right! The monster I'll be representing in this matchup is the three-headed devil, the one who is many, the Venus Hellfire, the demon of the galaxy, the supreme ruler of the cosmos, Monster Zero, King Ghidorah! Godzilla Tuska will be representing Godzilla.
To no one's surprise.
Jack Lottie Vlogs will be representing SpaceGodzilla.
How original.
Hey, pausing the video, going off script, because I need to mention a few rules and regulations just so you understand why I'm not using certain monsters. It's because certain monsters are banned. There are a few variations of King Ghidorah that might be a little too much to use for this upcoming battle, or maybe a bit confusing when playing their abilities. So, number 1, King Ghidorah from Godzilla Earth can't be used. Banned, because too big. Mecha King Ghidorah, would be awkward to use because metal, not metal. Then we got Monster vs. King Ghidorah. Monster vs. King Ghidorah is too new. Yada yada yada. Final Wars, Kaiser Ghidorah, not technically King Ghidorah. Also, mentioning no help, no interference, no aliens, no Gigands, no nothing. Can't get help, can't get aid. Same thing for the other monsters. They can't get help, they can't get aids. Everybody is just using their own abilities, their own selves. Thank you. Alright, back to the video. We'll be going over each era of King Ghidorah's abilities and fighting tactics. At the end, highlighting how these abilities and strategies give our tri-headed serpent the undisputed advantage over his inferior opponents. Of course, mentioning as much relevant information as we can that will support our claims and facts. We'll also acknowledge any and all weaknesses we can find to be somewhat fair to our opponents. With that out of the way, let's go over our Titan's capabilities, starting with the Showa era. A malevolent space monster, King Ghidorah attacked the planet Venus under his own power thousands of years ago, eradicating the planet's entire civilization in only 3 days. In 1964, King Ghidorah arrived on Earth inside a meteorite, eventually emerging from it and attacking the planet's cities. After his initial defeat, King Ghidorah would be taken control of by various alien races, losing his history along the way. King Ghidorah arrived into the Godzilla franchise with quite the arsenal of weapons and abilities, all of which helped the King of the Cosmos destroy a planet's entire civilization in a few days. So, what are these abilities of mass destruction? Well, the three-headed giant's Showa incarnation has the ability to fly at speeds of up to Mach 3. This speed is greatly dwarfed when compared to his flight speed while going into space, reaching up to Mach 400 while encased in a meteorite. To clarify, that is over 300,000 miles per hour. It's pretty fast. One of his most notable powers, Ghidorah is able to blast golden bolts of lightning from each of his 3 heads. These powerful beams of light are called gravity beams.
jets and are said to be just as powerful as Godzilla's famed atomic breath, causing explosions when fired towards buildings. Each head is capable of firing these beams one at a time, showing that the monster has complete control of how and where it chooses to fire these powerful weapons. This variation of the king has the ability to produce hurricane force winds just by flapping his wings. While in flight, these winds cause buildings to blow away. He can also cause these winds while planted on the ground, being shown to knock over other kaijus in the process. Without arms, Ghidorah uses his head and feet in close combat, launching monsters away by bashing his multiple necks towards them, meanwhile stomping on grounded or smaller monsters with his immense feet. This version of Ghidorah is an extremely durable beast, comparable to Godzilla's durability, withstanding all forms of conventional weapons and even shrugging off Godzilla's atomic breath at point-blank range. He was also noted to be the only monster of Goraga's terror beasts to survive his battle with Zone Fighter, an achievement that highlights how difficult he is to kill. During his first appearance, while still in a meteorite, Ghidorah was able to generate magnetic fields of varying strengths that fluctuate over time. During his fight with Zone Fighter, Ghidorah displayed his power of magnetism by suspending several cars in the air. A bit of Magneto with this dragon, please. To conclude this era, the Showa version of the king showed a lot of the foundation of later iterations. Make no mistake, this variation of the kaiju is still an intimidating monster, but he is not the strongest incarnation. As we continue, you'll see more absurd abilities from this three-headed devil. But before that, let's take a look at Heisei's first attempt to bring back Monster Zero. King Ghidorah is part of a scheme by a group of time-traveling terrorists from the year 2204, dubbed the Futurians, to destroy Japan in the past and prevent it from becoming a global superpower in the future. The Futurians traveled back to Lagos Island in the year 1944 and left behind 3 genetically engineered creatures called Dorats. In 1954, the Dorats were exposed to the Castle Bravo hydrogen bomb test conducted at nearby Bikini Atoll, which mutated and merged them together into King Ghidorah. The Futurians then took control of King Ghidorah in the year 1992, directing him to destroy the major cities of Japan. To note, according to the novelization of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and an earlier script, the Dorats there's a typo in the script, were engineered using DNA that came from the corpse of the space super monster King Ghidorah on the planet Venus, implying extraterrestrial origins like the Showa era, but also implying that this iteration is a clone, but we'll ignore the clone bit. Now, let's go over Heisei Ghidorah's abilities. You may see some repeat abilities, but hopefully reviewing them will find some improvements to these powers. Again, Ghidorah's flight speed is incredibly fast, but this time reaching a speed of Mach 4, 1 Mach faster than Showa. In addition, he gained massive maneuverability, being able to evade and destroy several F-15 fighter jets while in the air. The return and stay of the gravity beams, of course. These beams are seen leveling city blocks and causing Godzilla visible pain, much like the previous Ghidorah. The wings of this beast do produce hurricane force winds by flapping them, much like before. In addition though, these wings also provide protection from Godzilla's atomic breath, being used to block the blast like a shield. Ghidorah used a flying kick to knock over Godzilla, further pressing his advantage by stomping on the prone Godzilla. He also used his neck to strangle the giant lizard, forcing the victim to foam from the mouth. This monster is still intensely durable like before, being unharmed by most conventional weapons and withstanding Godzilla's atomic breath at point-blank range. Even when his middle head was severed by the Big G, the three-headed G was able to survive the injury inflicted upon it and escape the battle before things turned more dire. I guess in this case it would be two-headed G, but I didn't really think about that when writing the script, so, you know, I have to whatever you want, I guess. To summarize this version of the Space Demon, he received several upgrades and a few notable downgrades. For one, it isn't specified that he could travel into space. Also, he was able to lose a head during his fight with Godzilla at some point, implying a weakness in his durable armor. With that said, he gained a few strong abilities too, like blocking Godzilla's atomic breath with his wings and gaining extreme mobility while in flight. Overall, not a strong addition to the King's arsenal, but enough to make note of. But Heisei still has another version of Ghidorah to explore, and this one never fought with Godzilla before. That lizard should be thankful he never had to face Ghidorah in this upcoming iteration. King Ghidorah is an evil, giant, three-headed dragon from outer space and a more powerful relative of Ghidorah. He first arrived on Earth millions of years ago as a Cretaceous King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah wiped out the majority of life on Earth and consumed their life forces. He returned to Earth in the modern day in his more powerful, mature form, intending to feed on the life forces of human children. Yikes. For this dangerous version of the King, we'll mainly look at his abilities as an adult, seeing that this battle between the three Gs will be the Kaijus at their most powerful, not their younger forms and that, whatnot, have you. The great space monster is again maintaining fast speeds of flight, slowing down to Mach 3, but gaining the ability to fly at sublight speeds while in outer space, even maintaining his ability to fly when losing one of his wings. This is done with the use of a zero-gravity field that he can manipulate. The famous or infamous beams continue to stay as a signature ability of the three-headed king, destroying buildings as per usual. However, this time the Supreme Ruler can focus them all into a single blast called the Gravity Beam Triple Tornado, sending Rainbow Mothra flying through the air. Ghidorah has the ability to fire anti-gravity beams from each of his wings, showing to have a form of telekinetic abilities. And the king just keeps swinging with some of these new abilities. One of these being his hypnosis beam projected from his eyes. These beams allow Ghidorah to use mind control on other beings. This is a very limited mind control, but does showcase a wide range of his utilities. The name of King Ghidorah's hurricane force winds is now called Wing Shockwaves, able to blow away cars and buildings while in flight. This version of the king was able to withstand and was completely unharmed by all of Rainbow Mothra's attacks. It was only after Rainbow Mothra transformed into Armor Mothra that the queen was able to injure the demon. Otherwise, it's implied that the dragon is nearly invincible. This version of King Ghidorah has regenerative abilities that put the Monsterverse king to shame, being able to recover its entire body from just a severed tail. It's also implied in the book Rebirth of Mothra 3 Super Complete Works that Ghidorah can regenerate from the severed wing that Armor Mothra cut off during their final confrontation. You hear that? It's an unkillable kaiju. And in case there were any worries about his scales not being enough, the king even has the ability to create a protective barrier around itself, blocking Rainbow Mothra's cross-heat rainbow laser, mineral chest beam, and sparkling rainbow buster attacks, only failing against Armor Mothra's heat laser. I just felt like noting his ability to teleport smaller creatures into a dome that he can create. This dome produces corrosive materials that prevent victims inside from leaving, and slowly drains their life force, giving it to Ghidorah as a result. You know, teleportation, why not? This version of King Ghidorah is probably one of his most terrifying iterations. A monster which is not only hard to kill in the first place, but doesn't stay dead is hard not to be worried about. It is also debated that this variation of Mothra, called Mothra Leo, is not only the strongest version of Mothra, but possibly the strongest kaiju to exist among Toho's library of monsters. So, if this King Ghidorah gave one of the strongest kaiju a run for their money, imagine the faces of the two Godzillas that have to go against this three-headed behemoth in all of his glory. The first and possibly last time King Ghidorah was placed in the role of the hero was his appearance in Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. I have chosen to not go over these abilities, because after reviewing them, they are closely tied to the other two monsters Godzilla faced in that film, Baragon and Mothra. In addition, most of these powers shown are heavily outshined by King Ghidorah's other appearances. Sorry, Millennium King Ghidorah, you will not be joining us for dinner at the family table.
Hey, just pausing the video again because there are some abilities that I didn't go over because they weren't in the original script, and I found them while editing the video, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna just add them here. King Ghidorah in Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. Apparently, he can actually emit a strong electrical shock through his bite. It was only after he absorbed Mothra's power that he was able to use the traditional gravity beam. So, electric shock bite. That is one ability that he can use, in addition to everything else. Another one is, in the Showa series, apparently he has the ability to emit poisonous gas from his mouth and tails. And this was never shown on screen, but is mentioned as one of his abilities that he's able to do. So there it is. Also, in Kodansha Godzilla, King of the Monsters manga in 1992-3, King Ghidorah was able to become invisible by shaking his wings at a certain high frequency, and you could see in this panel here that it was showcasing this ability. It is actually pretty notable and kind of cool, so I just felt like sharing these abilities right now, and that's all. Thank you. Bye.
Like many kaiju, Ghidorah does have flaws and weaknesses, one of which is he struggles when fighting multiple foes at once. It was this that led to his downfall when he first appeared in the Showa era, when Rodan, Mothra, and Godzilla all fought the beast together. It should be noted that this weakness is best exploited when all of the monsters attack him, and only him. When he was under the control of aliens, any disruptions with a link to that mind control device would cause him to become confused and vulnerable to other monsters' attacks. A weakness that won't be a problem in this upcoming fight. His durable armor was tested in the Heisei version, when Godzilla used a more powerful atomic breath to sever his middle head. He even had to let go of Godzilla when he released a nuclear pulse mid-strangle. This exploit may not play a vital role in the fight because it can be implied that this is a Heisei-only weakness. The return of Mothra variant of Ghidorah was only susceptible to Armor Mothra's attacks, exploding after taking enough damage from that version of Mothra. Otherwise, the only other weakness he has is that he is vulnerable as a juvenile, which is not relevant in this fight. Also, he can't swim or doesn't swim well. So yeah.
Let me give my insights on how the battle will go down from beginning to end. But before beginning, we should probably discuss the layout of the battlefield. To give all kaijus an opportunity to be at their strongest, the battle will take place in a seaside city landscape, similar to the final battle of Godzilla vs. Kong, taking place in Hong Kong. A combination of land, sea, and mountain terrain with some destructible buildings will give each kaiju some feeling of home field advantage. Based on what we already know of Godzilla, he will undoubtedly begin the fight, charging headfirst towards the nearest threat he can discern. Whether it be SpaceGodzilla or King Ghidorah hardly matters to Earth's mightiest monster. What we know of King Ghidorah and SpaceGodzilla is that they are more methodical in their battle tactics, with Ghidorah probably being the brash fighter of the two, attacking more mercilessly with the intent to destroy and kill. Of the three kaijus, the two that will most likely trade blows first are the old rivals, with SpaceGodzilla looming in the background. Both kings would not be able to resist finally getting their chance to destroy the other, as they blast one another with their breath attacks or charge at each other, getting into a lethal deadlock. As the battle progresses to the middle phase, Godzilla will fight more and more inland, facing the two on the turf of SpaceGodzilla and King Ghidorah. Not out of stupidity, but because the king of the monsters fears nothing. At this point, SpaceGodzilla would most likely have a field of crystal towers erected, creating a landscape where the mutant would finally feel relatively safe and in control. This will also be where Godzilla's attention would most likely be divided, as SpaceGodzilla would have the means to launch barrages of laser attacks at the other two kaiju. Ghidorah can simply deflect most of these towers' blast using a combination of his wings and light barrier. But Godzilla wouldn't be able to ignore it as far as we know. He would have to choose to deal with one kaiju or the other. A dire situation for the king of the monsters. Approaching the end of the fight with no aid available or coming thanks to no plot armor, Godzilla will meet a fate of either complete exhaustion or absolute defeat, as the other two extraterrestrial beings lay waste to their foe. Now with their old rival out of the fight, SpaceGodzilla and King Ghidorah will clash for the first time. With the durability and tools to withstand most of SpaceGodzilla's beams, King Ghidorah would approach the space monstrosity slowly at first. But as he takes flight, his hurricane force winds would topple several of the smaller crystal towers as his gravity beams deal with a majority of the larger ones. Ghidorah would then hurl its large legs at SpaceGodzilla, attempting to knock the kaiju over as he flies over to him. If he wasn't able to knock him over, Ghidorah would land closer to the space abomination, towering over him as he uses his three heads to attack him, biting, bludgeoning, grappling what he can from the crystal beast. The possible end to the fight, as Ghidorah continues to barrage SpaceGodzilla with close-range attacks, Godzilla would miraculously arise from the ground and charge an immensely powerful atomic breath to blast into both the wounded monsters. An endless amount of atomic breath attacks would bring the other two kaiju to a near-death state. King Ghidorah would try to block some of the blasts, but fail with some of them, taking immense damage. The same would be true with SpaceGodzilla. If Ghidorah is unable to escape Godzilla's final barrage, both kaiju, King Ghidorah and SpaceGodzilla, would be beaten by the King of the Monsters. But King Ghidorah would fully recover under Godzilla's nose somewhere. And when he completely recovers, regardless of how this battle is fought, King Ghidorah will always return. It wouldn't matter if Godzilla or SpaceGodzilla is left to fight the one who is many. The demon of the galaxy will always come back. And because of that, the Venus Hellfire will never be beaten. Monster Zero will never die. The three-headed devil will win this fight at the end of the day, maintaining his title as the supreme ruler of the cosmos, King Ghidorah.